Yasco, Westbury Church of Christ, Houston, Texas, and the most difficult day of my week is probably Saturday night, because I can't get to sleep. I'm thinking about the lesson, I'm thinking about anticipating Sunday, I'm going over things in my mind, and it just won't settle down. And so my alarm set for 6 o'clock on Sunday morning, and I'm usually up by 5 o'clock on Sunday morning and going over everything and praying and I think because I feel this responsibility, you've got these people that the world is beating up all week long and they're dragging in, and I know in just a few hours they're going to be dragging into that building, and I need to say something to those. I've got 4 different groups I need to address. Those that we have 20 or 30 visitors every week that just checking us out, and they need to know that God is relevant. I've got teenagers that need to know that the Bible and that things that they're being told is okay, that the Bible's, there are still things that there are yes and no to. I've got struggling young families that are hanging on by a thread, that are financially an issue, and then I've got empty nesters and old folks that are jaded that need to be inspired by God's Word. And so, it's just trying to make sure everybody gets addressed and everybody gets, and so that Saturday night is a very restless night for me. By Sunday night, I have not got anything left. And so somebody comes in and says, "You want to go out for dinner on Sunday night?" No,
I'm Brother Michael Williams, minister to the Missouri City Church of Christ in Missouri City, Texas. I concur with Brother Yasco. That's the exact same night for me, Saturday. Throughout the week, it's so much going on. Tuesdays, most of the time, visitation. Wednesdays, Bible class. Thursdays, counseling. So with all that's going on, you don't really have much time to put in for your lessons until the weekend. And so Saturday is the night, because Friday you're trying to give some time to your family. And so Saturday is the night that you're really going in, and as Brother Yasco said, you're trying to give the church something that's going to help them, but something that's not just on the surface. And so, you're having to study, and you're having to go deep with God's Word, and you're having to pray. And then at the same time, your family is wanting your attention, but you're there in the trenches trying to get it in for Sunday, because the people are expecting a word from God. And as has been stated, you're dealing with some of every kind in the body. And so you're trying to figure out, tomorrow, how am I going to help the sick, the widowed, those that are dealing with life stresses, just lost a loved one. How am I going to help the young generation get a concept of who Jesus is and help them to believe that Jesus is real? How am I going to get this mentality out of the millennial generation that, you do need God, and that, all the movements that are taking place. And so, all of that is taking place on Saturday, and I'm having to clear my mind to prepare to preach the word on Sunday. And so Saturday night, Saturday period, the entire day, it's a struggle, because you're wrestling all day long trying to make sure that you're prepared for the people of God. Because not only am I preaching to the people of God, but God also expects something from me as well. And I can't just give his people junk. And so, if I'm going to do right by God and His people, I have to make sure that I put in the effort and the study and the work. And a lot of times Saturday is that day where I can just really sit there and study and try and get my mind together. And sometimes that could be a challenge.
I'm for Danielsville, the minister of the Northwest Church of Christ in South Haven, Mississippi. I would agree Saturday is a day. Let me say this, I would say Sunday. And the reason for me is preachers, we are the only people, not the only, but we worship and we work at the same place. And so for me, on Sunday, in my mind, I get up early enough to get to the house of God, and I have a training I do. I have 3 deacons in training, their wives. I have my mindset intentionally how I'm prepared for that training and teaching them. And then I'm preparing for, getting ready to preach on Sunday morning. And then while I'm doing all of that, I'm wondering, I know my people, I know the pulse of the congregation. I know this such and such ain't looking right today. Something's going on with that brother, something going on with that. Why he's missing. So I'm thinking about all of that. And so it's still a day of work. So I worship that day, but I work that day as well. And so that's why Monday is my Sabbath. And so I would say Sunday, if that makes sense.
I'm Randy Willingham, and I guess one thing I'd say about myself is I'm a real fan of Willie. I love Willie. And at the same time, I'm quite jealous because of the father and partner he's got in ministry in Willie II. And I find myself wanting Willie II to adopt me. That'd be a great deal. I would say that for me, the worst day by far is Sunday evening, because Sunday's done. And I'm looking forward to Sunday. I love Sunday, and it's over. I've got to wait now another week. But I would also say that now I work with churches in many different places. I don't stay around when churches don't get their act together. I move on pretty quick. And so I get to the heart of things, and I see results. But that's very different than when I was a preacher. When I was a located minister, Sunday evening would be the most difficult, because I knew that as soon as Monday morning hit, I was going to be torn all week long. It was going to start again. I am a little man. I've had this illusion that if I were a big man, I'd be able to step up to the plate and do what I need to do. But the whole week, this expectation that I'm going to do ministry to people and at the same time have time to have a substantive, useful message the next Sunday, and the impossibility of that making me feel like I am just not enough. And that constant sense of I'm not enough settling again. I don't experience that now that I've stepped into ministry in a different way. But that's something that's always in my mind, is the pressure of that on people doing full-time ministry. You just cannot do this job as much as you yourself would love to do.
Lamont Ross, the minister of the Los Angeles Avenue Church of Christ in Dallas, and as I thought about the question, really the first answer that came to my mind was there is no day that is more difficult than others for me. And then I thought Sunday would be one, because at the end of Sunday I'm just done. We have 3 services. Our building is being renovated, so we have 2 morning services, and then we still have evening service, and I preach it. Come 6:30 Sunday, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything but sit at the house with my drink of choice.
Yes, sir.
Which is, when I'm stressed, it's Blackberry Izzy.
Yes,
Izzy.
Yes.
You know, I don't drink alcohol. Blackberry Izzy is my drink of choice.
Some people was Googling Izzy.
But also, I think any day where you are having to expend a lot of emotion is a difficult day. A funeral, a hospital visit where it doesn't look good for anybody. Those days tend to take the most out of you, especially the tragic funerals. And you have to wrestle because as a minister, you get invested into the lives of people too. So you are called on to grieve, to comfort the grieving at the same time you're grieving. And don't be the only minister in your family, because when kinfolk die, they want you to do the funeral. In fact, I have to do a cousin's funeral tomorrow. But those are the real difficult days where you're like, I wish this day could just be a regular day.
In baseball, people are paid a whole lot of money. And they're paid a whole lot of money to play about 180 games. They don't have to hit a home run in every game. If they hit a home run every 3 or 4 games, they're a good player. And they make good money, and people justify their salaries. In this job, you have to hit a home run every time you get up there, or at least give the perception of hitting a home run. Because you do this job long enough, you learn how to crash and not burn. So for me, my name is Jeremy Flowers. I preach for the Gray Road Church of Christ in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm the only Yankee up here. The roughest day for me is Wednesday, because Wednesday really starts my day. My Sabbath is Monday and some of Tuesday. And see, some of y'all say, why you get 2 days? Because y'all get Saturday and Sunday. As Mike already said, Saturday is never an off day in ministry. I can't stand when folks say, come to my thing, when is it Saturday? We're going to hang out. There's no hanging out on Saturday. Saturday is a work day. So for me, Wednesday is tough because by then we probably had a leadership meeting, so I'm debriefing that. Based upon the leadership meeting, I would have a staff meeting to update them. In terms of preaching, we have 2 radio programs, soon to be 3, one of which is live, that has to be programmed, that has to be set up. We have television programs that have to be done. That's on top of preaching on Sunday morning. That's on top of preaching on Sunday night. That's on top of a funeral. That's on top of if I'm out of town, like I am now doing a presentation. So it can be very likely that's what I have Bible class, excuse me. So Wednesday, I have to prep Bible class, I have to start prepping the Sunday sermon, I have to prep the radio program, I have to prep the television program, I have to prep probably some other type of speaking engagement. So if you're speaking 4 to 5 to 6 times in a week, that's stressful. Every sermon is a term paper. Every sermon is a term paper. So I got 4 to 5 to 6 papers due every week, and I cannot afford, as much as God will bless, to fail in any of those things. I can't turn in a seat paper. Like you said, I can't turn it in junk. You know, people are expecting, number 1, the word, that's principle. But number 2, people are expecting you to do you. And the toughest part about success is every time you'll be more successful.
Yes, sir.
So every sermon has to be better than the last sermon. Every time you see me, I do a better job than the last time you saw me, and that has its own stress. So think about that from that standpoint. Wednesday is tough for me. Today is cool. It's Tuesday, correct? That's what happens when you work like you forget what day it is. So tomorrow starts all that. I leave here first thing in the morning. I fly back. I got to fly back. I don't need to rest. We have a back to school program Saturday. That means I have to go meet with people. I have to get the news. I have to get on the news some kind of way. I have to do Bible class Wednesday night. If something happens, I do Bible class Wednesday morning for our seasoned saints. I still got to preach on Sunday. I still have television. I still have radio. A funeral next Monday. Those things never stop. As the administrative guy said yesterday for Preston Crest, there's no break. Just the next Sunday. You can sit down on Sunday night and either be depressed or claim victory. And guess what? Nothing next week matters what happened last week. Your audience has already forgotten everything you said. They've already forgotten. None of that matters. You can't say, oh, I tore it up last week, so what? You got to do it again. And don't be out of town the next week.
And what do you do, very quickly, what do you do from the seat to the pulpit? because your problems are really the same as everybody else. When you walk on the stage, there is the assumption that, you okay?
Not subtly, but successfully, I've learned how to compartmentalize. There's this, there's that, there's another thing. These things cannot touch. I am very open and honest with my congregation, and with anybody for that matter. I am real with the fact that sometimes my holiness is diametrically opposed to my humanity. So when I get into church, I really don't want to see anybody before I preach. That's why I don't teach Sunday school. I could not do Sunday. I could not train anybody. The first thing I'm doing is preaching. Because A, my sermon would bleed into everything else. B, I can't be distracted. Number two, I try to avoid people beforehand. I'm very extroverted. I will talk to you all day. I'm the last person to leave that church building after service. But beforehand, you can't dump everything on me. And I've had that happen, where literally you leave the office and, oh, my granddaughter tried to commit suicide last night, but my sermon's on joy. So now I'm dealing with that. So I'm straight ahead. I mean, we start service at 10:15. I can watch it from my office. I don't leave my office at 10:40, which is I'm going from the office to the stage. Okay? The first thing I do, if you ever heard me speak, is I pray first. Okay? And the first thing I do in prayer is ask for forgiveness of my sins. Because I'm unworthy. That shouldn't be up here. I shouldn't be up here. If y'all knew all the things I did during the week, you would let me preach to you. Okay? But the fact of the matter is, it's not of me, it's a gift. I'm now giving God the gift. And that's how I see it. So I pray fervently. First of all, forgive me. And forgive me my sins. And now speak to me and speak through me. And now we can have church.
I would say, I do a lot of preparation. I love to prepare. But I've found that I do much better when I don't let that drive me. So I like to be very prepared in such a way that I drop it. And the last thing I do is I want to feel with the people that I'm interacting with. I want to feel where they're at. And I get into the emotional experience of where they're at. I work with women of addiction, and I process them through a family day. And I lead their family through hearing their story for the first time as it's fully read, and I read it to them and try to help them interpret it. And I always make it a point that I never over-prepare, because whenever I over-prepare, my pre-agenda drives things. And I can't be sensitive to the deeper inner need. And I find it important that I not let my preparation drive. So I will read these stories before I go to bed, in bed, for the first time. And the next morning when I wake up, I will have reflections I will take notes on for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I'll go into these all-day sessions. And I find that when I do that, I'm much more driven by the needs of the people that I'm interacting with than I am what I feel like they need to have. And I find that they are able to teach me and show me what's needed. So I prepare a bunch of stuff I don't use. And the purpose of the preparation is to emotionally prepare me to have a deeper engagement than I could otherwise have. I find that very, very useful.
I think, for me, I understand, if I understand Ephesians 4 correctly, the Bible says God gives gifts to men, and then he turns around and the men becomes a gift to the church. One of the things he says in Ephesians 4 that the man of God, what his responsibility is to equip saints to do the work of ministry. And so I'm having that in my mind because God put different personalities in the church. He knows what he's doing. And so in my mind, this is God's business, not my business. So I understand people have different gifts. And there's a reason why God does it. And my people tell you there are people with different personalities, and I know they have different personalities, and I intentionally hook them together on purpose because God does something with that. And it's for the greater good, for the benefit of the kingdom of God. So I would tell a young preacher, never take anything personal. know the primary purpose of why you're doing what God wants you to do. Equip the saints to do the work of ministry so the kingdom of God can be blessed.
My advice to a young minister would be, know who you are, and be comfortable with who you are, and know that while you can understand other people, you can't be whatever other people want you to be. You can't be outgoing if that's not you. You can't be super organized if that's not you. So know who you are and be comfortable with who you are, and surround yourself with people and put people on your team who are what you are not. So if I know that, hey, I'm not that big on details, I don't care if we have paint on the walls that's a certain color or pictures of flowers, but there are people who care about that, then those are the people I want around me, because I know who I am, I'm comfortable with who I am, and then in helping other people, hopefully they watch me work with different people, and that gives them some insight into how they can do the same.
Every church runs off of culture, climate, and change. Don't be so fast to change if you don't understand the culture and the climate. And that's with every situation, every congregation, every person. And secondarily, I have one boss, but I have 400 supervisors. When you understand that, you understand a lot. And then last, as I said in our session yesterday, every church runs on two legs, preaching and programs. You gotta have both legs. If you don't have one leg, you will hop along on one. That only works for so long. Now granted, both of them probably will not be the same length, so you will have a peg leg. But make sure that your preaching leg is longer than your programming leg.
I tell ministers that one of the most important things is for you to recognize it's about your growth, not theirs. It's about you being impacted by them, not about you impacting them. That's something you have some control over, and that there are people who are like you, people who are not like you. The people who are like you, you will quickly understand, they will quickly understand you. That's not true of people who are not like you. People who are not like you will not understand you. Keep in mind the people who are like you will understand you, but you'll share the same blind spots. And so people who are not like you, you will have a harder time understanding each other, but you will have a higher degree of complementing each other when you do. And the whole issue is for you to go into this in such a way that your growth is the thing you're concerned about. That's the number one limiter of other people you interact with, is your refusal to let the range of people you interact with produce growth in you. Whenever you stop doing that, now you're going to be complaining about everybody you're trying to lead because you can't lead them because you're incompetent. I think it goes way back. I think it's a very old problem. It is the Maccabean revolt in the time between the Testaments. It's back in Ezekiel as he talks about the false shepherds of Israel. It's in Matthew 23 as Jesus talks about the Pharisees. The most problematic problem are church leaders. In other words, people who have spiritual authority who also have high validation needs. They need to be validated. They want the best seat at the table. They want the long robes. They want to be respected for their great speeches. That need for validation is a spiritual abuser to other people. It's the biggest source of spiritual abuse. If we need to be validated, we can't bless because we're trying to get the blessing.
In every church,
Come on now.
in every church, there is always a spirit of Jezebel. A Jezebel spirit.
Yeah, talk about it, please.
Yeah, call the name. It can be male or female, but when you study the Jezebel spirit, the Jezebel spirit don't like preachers. The Jezebel spirit usurp authority, take authority that doesn't belong to them. is very manipulative. So you can see that. So you see that they're very religious, they're very spiritual, and they know the Bible.
They were living the same spirit.
Well, religious. So that Jezebel spirit is a spirit that hinders the Lord's church. And I think Revelations 2 says, God tells the church, I have somewhat against you because you've tolerated that spirit. And we tolerate the spirit, and then it kills the Lord's church. And whenever there's a Jezebel, there's an Ahab.
Lord have mercy.
Somebody who's very passive in that regard. But I believe personally from my experience, because when one Jezebel leave, somebody else comes, another Jezebel comes. And so you got to be able to learn how to deal and manage that spirit in ministry.
Go back to what my brother said here. One of the things that has killed or hurt the church is when you deal with that spirit of I need to be the one that does everything. Nothing gets done unless I say do it, or it's my way or no way. And I've been in situations where that's happened before, and I've seen where it's hurt the church as a whole, because it's not looking at the greater good for the church. And so when it's going one way, or maybe two people, are trying to run it a certain way, well, the rest of the church suffers because we're not looking at the greater good, and it's all about my agenda. And so that's been one of the things that I've seen that really hurts the church, kills the church. And man, I need the title, I need the attention, I need the robe, I need the glory, I need the amens, I need the shouts, have that diatrophy spirit. It's all about me. And so, I think, as men of God, we have to be careful that we don't get territorial, and that we try and claim it all as ours, because then we develop that spirit as well for the next person that comes along, because now it becomes, well, it's my way or no way. And so that's one thing that I've learned, to look out for that, because I don't want to be the cause of hurting the church in the future and stunting the growth of the church. And so that's one of the spirits that I've seen that has hurt the church, killed the church. And I think we need to be careful of that so that God's church can go forward in a blessed way.
If you ever give your heart to ministry, you will never be happy doing anything else.
I'm trying to.
I would say no ministry is going to come with ups and downs. There will be struggles, as you just heard Brother Yasko say. You're going to deal with your times of pains, sorrows, woes. There will be burnout. But ministry is the most rewarding job. When you can see the fruit of your labor, there's nothing more rewarding when you see people come back and tell you, man, you changed my life.
Yes.
You don't know where I was. You don't know what I was about to do. But because of the word that you gave, it changed my life and my situation. So just know that ministry is rewarding. And if you stick through it God's way, in the end, God will reward you with the greatest reward that you can ever receive. So that's what I would tell any man of God. Know that it's going to have its challenges, but know that it's also rewarding.
What I would suggest, John MacArthur made a statement. He says, being a minister is the greatest vocation on earth. I wouldn't stoop to be a king. And I like that, because ministry is about helping other people. It's about blessing the kingdom of God, winning souls to Jesus. But if I could say something, I would say this. It has blessed me. If you live by the compliments of others, you would die by their criticism. So don't live or do ministry to receive compliments. Because the first time they criticize you, you're gonna die. They'll say, Hosanna, Hosanna this day. And they say, crucify, crucify. So my philosophy of ministry is I'm doing this for God, not people. And whether you criticize or compliment, I'm still gonna do the will of God.
Amen.
I would say that the biggest need people have is a need. It's not a desire. The biggest need human beings have is the need to give. It's not to receive. It's not to get something. And ultimately what they want to give is themselves in love. There's no human need deeper than that, which means that if you're going to evaluate ministers who do well, ministers who are deeply loved by their churches they serve are not doing as good a job as ministers who get their churches loving. That church needs to give love more than they need to get it. The greatest ministers are not the ones who give a lot of love. They're the people who turn people into lovers. And that's a totally different, backward approach. I would even tag on to the whole idea of understanding and say understanding is way overrated. I don't expect to be understood. I don't expect to. What is greater? Your love for God or your understanding of God? People that you impact and their lives are radically changed, they will crave jumping in and they will go over the cliff for you because they want to give themselves to somebody they care about, and they care about you because you've changed their life. And that capacity and desire and need to give is behind a whole lot of the mystery of why human beings get stuck the way we do. That's why we have validation issues. I want you to let me know I am giving something that is myself, and you want it, it's good. So turn people into givers.
My advice to the church would be to know that you have a ministry too. Yes, we are ministers. We stand behind the sacred desk and proclaim the most beautiful message in the world. But you have a ministry as well. You also have been called to engage in this ministry of reconciliation. Don't kill us just coming looking for a word. But when you leave, engage in ministry, use your gifts, use your talents, use your abilities for the building of the kingdom of God. And you have to have that focus. You have to make sure that you love God first, as you want us to love God first, and love other people out of the love that you have for God. We have to be more concerned with hearing God say, well done, than we are with hearing others say, good job.
Right.
Ministry is heaven to hold, but hell to experience. It is the greatest thing that you can ever do, but it's hard. The prayer is always that your character will run up and match your gift, because sometimes your gift outruns your character. It is difficult because I think, as someone said, it was Trevanius, not sacrificing your family on the altar of the church and making sure that your wife does not become a side chick to the church.
That's right.
Making sure that you put church in perspective. Lamont alluded to this. Every preacher has a ministry, and your ministry is larger than the church. Because churches, number one, let me put a note on this. I am blessed to now be at a church that I believe understands my function, understands my ministry, understands the role of a minister. It was not always this way. I think I said yesterday in our session, if you ever have more than one church, Usually your first church, they feel they're doing you a favor. Your second church, they feel like you're doing them a favor. And that orientation changes a lot of things in how you deal with ministry. But ministry is extremely, extremely rewarding. But I think everybody up here could do something else and probably make more money doing it. And when people tell me, well, I want to be a preacher, well, as long as you want it, you probably aren't ready. What do you really want? Do you want the illusion? Do you want the quote-unquote fame? Do you want the nice clothes? Do you want the car? Do you want all, what do you want? Do you really want to help people, or do you want to give pulpit speeches? Lastly, I am afraid that we are devolving as Christians because of so much media. You can watch YouTube and get any preacher you want on demand, sermons on demand, topics on demand. Are we looking for Bible-based lessons that are challenging us to grow? We're looking for ministers or motivational speakers. I think a lot of times we're looking for motivational speakers. And I think our congregations, in some congregations, are making us to be motivational speakers. One thing like you brought up, and I'm done. Do you really work here? Yes. Oh, I love what people do, even adults. Is that all you do? Yes. I think everybody was a full-time minister. Yes. Well, I thought you just worked on Sundays and Wednesdays. Get away from me. Because the fact that people don't understand, they want a motivational speech. All they're high for that 45 minutes on Sunday morning. And if you don't get that high, then they wonder why we even have you. And you're saying, I'm minister. I'm not your motivational speaker.
You know what? When Jesus asked James and John, are you willing to drink the cup that I drink from? And they said, yes. You have no idea what's in that cup. You have no idea what's coming in that cup.
Don't you know I'm in the Lord?